Hello, Echo Tales family. Prepare yourselves for a story of betrayal, vengeance, and a meticulously executed plan that will leave you absolutely stunned. Before we started, please take a moment to subscribe to our channel, hit that like button, and most importantly, share your thoughts and predictions in the comments below. Your engagement truly helps us bring more gripping narratives your way. I never imagined my world would shatter in our own driveway, witnessing my wife, Melanie, exchange a kiss with another man. But that fleeting, sickening image paled in comparison to the moment her lover, Keith, brazenly slapped me across the face, right there in front of Emma, our daughter, and declared his conquest. My wife, my home, even my meticulously built career. 5 minutes. That's all it took for him to learn the brutal, unyielding truth about underestimating a man stripped of everything but his resolve. My name is Wesley Frell, and this is how I fought back from the brink. At 42, I believed my life was a meticulously crafted masterpiece. For years, I'd been the diligent architect, building a respected career as a medical data security specialist, ensuring the digital fortresses of patient privacy remained impenetrable. Our Nashville home, a testament to years of shared dreams and sacrifices, was our sanctuary. And my family, Melanie, my wife of 16 years, and our vibrant 14-year-old daughter, Emma, was the bedrock of my existence. I would have taken a bullet for them without a second thought. We had built something tangible, something I could point to with immense pride. Melanie and I had met at a hospital fundraiser, a whirlwind of ambition and shared laughter. She, sharp and confident in hospital administration. I, the focused security expert. Everyone had called us the perfect match, two driven individuals carving out a life together. The first decade was a symphony of mutual support, adventurous travels, and seamless adaptation when Emma arrived. But then, a discordant note. My promotion to head of cybersecurity for the Southern Regional Hospital Network. I remember the day I delivered the news. Mel popped champagne, her smile bright, yet her eyes held the glint of something I couldn't quite decipher. "That's wonderful, Wesley," she'd said, raising her glass. "Though I suppose this means even more late nights, doesn't it?" I dismissed the quiet resignation in her voice, assuring her it was temporary. Looking back, I see now that was the precise moment she started to drift, a slow, imperceptible unmooring from our shared life. The bitter irony isn't lost on me. I was a guardian of sensitive information, a sentinel against digital breaches, yet utterly blind to the gaping wound forming in the very heart of my home. Thanksgiving offered the first tangible crack in our facade. My parents, Mel's sister, Andrea's family, everyone was gathered, a tableau of domestic bliss. Returning from the kitchen with coffee, I caught Mel swiftly tucking her phone away, a telltale flush on her cheeks, a private smile playing on her lips. "Private joke? Work stuff?" I asked, trying for casual, but my gut tightened. "Just checking emails," she'd replied, a fraction too quickly. That same night, I awoke to an empty bed. I found her in the kitchen, phone clutched to her chest. "Jesus, Wesley, you scared me!" she gasped, screen dark. "Couldn't sleep? Just restless. Go back to bed." And like a fool, I did. 2 weeks later, Andrea, ever observant, cornered me at Emma's school concert. "Is everything okay with you and Mel?" she asked, her voice laced with concern. "Of course, why?" I responded, feigning confidence. Andrea hesitated. "She's just been different lately, distant when we talk. I thought maybe you two were having problems." "We're fine," I insisted, cutting her off. But the lie tasted metallic. We weren't fine. We were anything but.
Life, in its cruel wisdom, often throws its sharpest curveballs when you're already staggering. Mine arrived on a dreary Tuesday in February, an emergency board meeting. We've had a potential breach, the CEO announced, his face etched with gravity. Someone tried to access our patient payment records last night. The room sucked in a collective breath. This was my nightmare, the very reason I'd been hired. How bad? I'd asked, already yanking up security logs on my laptop. They didn't get in, thanks to your encryption protocols, he'd said, a flicker of relief in his grim eyes. But they were close. We need a full system overhaul yesterday. Just like that, my life became a relentless blur of 18-hour days, fortifying our digital defenses, a futile exercise given the breach already occurring within my own walls. I'd stumble home past midnight to find Mel either genuinely asleep or a masterful pretender. One night, a note on the kitchen counter. Emma's science fair is tomorrow, 4 p.m. Try to be there. The 8 words, heavy with unspoken disappointment, hit me like a physical blow. I made it, barely, slipping into the back of the auditorium just as Emma, my brilliant daughter, was presenting her project on healthcare data privacy, a topic she'd chosen because of me. The overwhelming pride I felt watching her confidently articulate complex concepts to the judges was a stark contrast to the hollowness within me. My little girl wasn't so little anymore. When I finally reached her, her smile faltered. "You made it," I'd said, pulling her into a hug. "Wouldn't miss it, sweetheart. Your project was amazing." "Mom said you might be too busy for this," she'd whispered, her voice tiny. "Never." I looked around. "Where is your mom anyway?" Emma shrugged. "She said she needed to take a call, something about work." I found Mel outside, laughing vibrantly into her phone, a stark contrast to the strained silence at home. She quickly ended the call when she saw me. "Important work stuff?" I'd asked, trying to keep my voice neutral. "Scheduling issue," she'd said vaguely. "Did you see Emma's project?" "I did. She's brilliant. Takes after a mother." I tried to bridge the growing chasm between us. Mel's smile didn't reach her eyes. We went through the motions of a family celebration, the comfortable silence we once shared now replaced by an unbearable awkwardness. That night, a crash downstairs woke me. Mel was in the kitchen, sweeping up shards of a broken glass, her frustration palpable. "You okay?" I asked. "Fine, just clumsy," she snapped. Kneeling to help her, I finally pushed. "Mel, what's going on with us? You've been distant for weeks." She sighed, sitting back on her heels. "Have I been distant, or have you just finally noticed I exist?" The accusation stung. "That's not fair. I'm working my ass off for this family." "Are you? Or are you hiding at work because it's easier than dealing with us?" She stood abruptly. "I'm tired, Wesley. I'm going to bed." She left me surrounded by broken glass, a perfect, chilling metaphor for our crumbling marriage. The next day, an alert on my phone. A charge at the Riverton Hotel, just 20 minutes from our house, on our joint credit card. Confusion curdled into suspicion. Why a local hotel? For the first time in my career, I called the hospital and lied. "Family emergency, I need the afternoon off." My career had been spent dissecting threats, pinpointing vulnerabilities, calculating risks, but nothing prepared me for the white-knuckled drive to that hotel. The Riverton, a generic business hotel, forgettable enough to harbor secrets. I parked across the street, my security training kicking in, scanning the lot. Mel's silver Audi, parked near the entrance, my stomach twisted into a Gordian knot. I needed proof. I walked into the lobby, projecting a confidence I didn't feel, flashing my hospital badge just quickly enough so the receptionist couldn't read it. "I need to leave a package for a guest, Melanie Frell." "Room 318? Would you like me to call up?" the young woman typed. "No need to disturb her meeting," I said, my voice unnervingly smooth. The elevator ride to the third floor felt interminable, my heart hammering. Outside room 318, I heard Mel's full-throated laugh, a sound I hadn't heard from her in months. A man's voice murmured in response, then silence. My fist was raised to knock, but I froze, suspended between rage and denial. Part of me wanted to break down the door, another wanted to flee. My phone buzzed. A text from Emma. "Dad, can you pick me up from practice? Mom's not answering." Reality crashed back in. My daughter needed me. Whatever horrors lurked behind that door would have to wait. That evening, Mel returned home, relaxed, laden with shopping bags. The mall was a nightmare, but I finally found that dress for the hospital fundraiser. I watched her lie so effortlessly, rage and disbelief warring within me. "How was your meeting?" I asked, my voice dangerously even. She hesitated for a fraction of a second. "Productive. We're making progress on the new patient billing system at the Riverton." Her expression flickered. "What? Credit card alert?" I showed her my phone. It flagged a charge. "Oh," she recovered quickly. "Yes, we used a conference room there. The hospital's being renovated, remember?" A plausible explanation, but I knew what I'd heard. "Is everything okay, Wesley? You look strange," she said, studying my face. "Just tired," I replied, the words bitter. I went to check on Emma, finding her at her desk, headphones on, immersed in homework. When had she grown so much, her childish roundness replaced by adult expressions? "Hey, sweetheart," I said from the doorway. "How was practice?" Emma shrugged. "Fine. Coach says I might start next game." "That's fantastic," I said, genuinely proud despite my churning emotions. "Mom said you might be too busy for this," she said quietly, her voice tiny. "Never!" I looked around. "Where is your mom anyway?"
Emma shrugged. She said she needed to take a call, something about work. I found Mel outside, laughing vibrantly into her phone, a stark contrast to the strange silence at home. She quickly ended the call when she saw me. "Important work stuff?" I'd asked, trying to keep my voice neutral. "Scheduling issue," she'd said vaguely. "Did you see Emma's project?" "I did. She's brilliant. Takes after her mother." I'd tried to bridge the growing chasm between us. Mel's smile didn't reach her eyes. We went through the motions of a family celebration, the comfortable silence we once shared now replaced by an unbearable awkwardness. That night, a crash downstairs woke me. Mel was in the kitchen, sweeping up shards of a broken glass, her frustration palpable. "You okay?" I'd asked. "Fine, just clumsy," she'd snapped. Kneeling to help her, I finally pushed. "Mel, what's going on with us? You've been distant for weeks." She sighed, sitting back on her heels. "Have I been distant? Or have you just finally noticed I exist?" The accusation stung. "That's not fair. I'm working my ass off for this family." "Are you? Or are you hiding at work because it's easier than dealing with us?" She stood abruptly. "I'm tired, Wesley. I'm going to bed." She left me surrounded by broken glass, a perfect, chilling metaphor for our crumbling marriage. The next day, an alert on my phone. A charge at the Riverton Hotel, just 20 minutes from our house on our joint credit card. Confusion curdled into suspicion. Why a local hotel? For the first time in my career, I called the hospital and lied. "Family emergency," I'd said. "I need the afternoon off." My career had been spent dissecting threats, pinpointing vulnerabilities, calculating risks, but nothing prepared me for the white-knuckled drive to that hotel. The Riverton, a generic business hotel, forgettable enough to harbor secrets. I parked across the street, my security training kicking in, scanning the lot. Mel's silver Audi parked near the entrance. My stomach twisted into a Gordian knot. I needed proof. I walked into the lobby, projecting a confidence I didn't feel, flashing my hospital badge just quickly enough so the receptionist couldn't read it. "I need to leave a package for a guest. Melanie Frell. Room 318. Would you like me to call up?" the young woman typed. "No need to disturb her meeting," I'd said, my voice unnervingly smooth. The elevator ride to the third floor felt interminable, my heart hammering. Outside room 318, I heard Mel's full-throated laugh, a sound I hadn't heard from her in months. A man's voice murmured in response, then silence. My fist was raised to knock, but I froze, suspended between rage and denial. Part of me wanted to break down the door, another wanted to flee. My phone buzzed, a text from Emma. "Dad, can you pick me up from practice? Mom's not answering." Reality crashed back. My daughter needed me. Whatever horrors lurked behind that door would have to wait. That evening, Mel returned home, relaxed, laden with shopping bags. The mall was a nightmare, but I finally found that dress for the hospital fundraiser. I watched her lie so effortlessly, rage and disbelief warring within me. "How was your meeting?" I asked, my voice dangerously even. She hesitated for a fraction of a second. "Productive. We're making progress in the new patient billing system at the Riverton Hotel." Her expression flickered. "What? Credit card alert?" I showed her my phone. It flagged a charge. "Oh, yes, we used a conference room there. The hospital's being renovated, remember?" A plausible explanation, but I knew what I'd heard. "Is everything okay, Wesley? You look strange," she said, studying my face. "Just tired," I replied, the words bitter. I went to check on Emma, finding her at her desk, headphones on, immersed in homework. When had she grown so much? Her childish roundness replaced by adult expressions. "Hey, sweetheart," I said from the doorway. "How was practice?" Emma shrugged. "Fine. Coach says I might start in the next game." "That's fantastic," I said, genuinely proud despite my churning emotions. "Mom forgot again. She's been forgetting a lot lately." I sat on the edge of her bed. "She's been busy with work." Emma gave me a look far too knowing for her 14-year-old years.
Is that what we're calling it? My heart sank. What do you mean? Nothing, she said, turning back to her homework. Just her work friend called here yesterday. He didn't know I'd picked up the phone. Emma's words haunted me for days. My daughter knew. She was trying to protect me. The realization filled me with both gratitude and crushing shame. I should have been protecting her. I needed concrete evidence before confronting Melanie, not just for my own peace of mind, but for the inevitable legal battle. Tennessee courts consider infidelity for alimony and asset division. If Mel was planning to leave, I had to be prepared. Friday afternoon, I told my team I was working from home and instead parked down the street. At 1:30 precisely, Mel's car backed out. I followed at a distance, employing every counter-surveillance trick from my security training. She drove to an upscale shopping center, parking near a coffee shop. From across the street, I watched her check her appearance in the rearview mirror, then head inside. 10 minutes later, a man joined her, tall, expensively dressed, radiating confidence. I recognized him instantly. Keith Lawson, the new hospital administrator overseeing the expansion project. I discreetly took photos as they talked intimately, his hand occasionally covering hers. When he leaned in to kiss her, a primal urge to storm over nearly overwhelmed me. Instead, I watched them leave together, climbing into his luxury SUV. They drove to the Riverton again. This time, I didn't follow. Back home, I stared at the damning images on my phone. 16 years of marriage, reduced to evidence for a divorce case. Where had it all gone so wrong? I called Richard, my old college roommate, now a family law attorney. "I need advice," I said, off the record. "My favorite kind," Richard replied. I explained everything. "Document everything," he advised. "Times, dates, locations. And if you want custody of Emma, focus on how her mother's behavior is affecting her. Missed pickups, emotional neglect." "I don't want to drag Emma into this," I said firmly. "You might not have a choice, Wes. If Melanie fights for full custody, you'll need every advantage." After hanging up, I created a secure folder on my encrypted work laptop, adding photos and a detailed timeline. Then, I did what I'd been dreading, checked our joint financial accounts. My blood ran cold. Small, consistent withdrawals from our savings over the last 6 months, totaling nearly $20,000. "Mel, where is it?" "I've been investing," she said smoothly. "For our future. I was going to surprise you once it matured." The lie hung between us, thick and suffocating. We stared at each other, the fragile pretense of our marriage finally shredded. Emma's footsteps on the stairs broke the moment. Melanie plastered on a smile. "Who wants takeout for dinner?"
Later that night, I lay awake listening to her measured breathing, knowing she was only pretending to sleep. In the morning, I would contact my bank, secure my personal accounts, and consult Richard about a formal separation. But tonight, I mourned what we had lost, gathering strength for the battle ahead. The hospital's annual fundraising gala couldn't have come at a worse time. Normally, I enjoyed these events, a chance to network, showcase our security improvements, and spend an evening with Mel. But after discovering her affair, the thought of watching her interact with Keith made me physically ill. "Are you sure you want to go?" Emma asked, her perceptiveness never failing to amaze me, as I adjusted my tie. "It's part of my job, sweetheart," I replied. "Besides, appearances matter right now." Emma leaned against the wall, arms crossed. "You mean pretending everything is fine when it's not?" I turned to face her. "How much do you know?" She shrugged, suddenly looking younger than her 14 years. "Enough. Mom's been different, you've been sad, and that guy who calls here—" She trailed off. I put my hands on her shoulders. "I'm handling it, and whatever happens, you're my priority. Remember that." Melanie descended the stairs in a new black dress, probably costing more than my first car. She looked stunning and utterly unfamiliar. "You look beautiful," I said mechanically. "Thank you," she replied, equally hollow. "The car service should be here any minute." The ride to the hotel was silent, both of us staring out separate windows. Upon arrival, Melanie immediately scanned the crowd, her body subtly tensing when she spotted Keith across the room. "I'm going to say hello to the board chairman," she said, already drifting away.
I watched her navigate the room with practiced ease, stopping to chat before accidentally bumping into Keith near the bar. Their interaction looked perfectly professional to anyone else, but I noted the lingering touch on his arm, the private smile that used to be reserved for me. "Wesley, just the man I wanted to see." Dr. Harrison, the hospital's chief of surgery, clapped me on the shoulder. "That security upgrade you implemented saved our bacon last month. Board's talking about a bonus." I forced a smile. "Just doing my job, sir." "Nonsense. You're the best investment this hospital's made in years." He lowered his voice. "Between us, there's talk of creating a new position, Chief Information Security Officer. You'd be the obvious choice." Under different circumstances, this would have been career-defining news. Now, it only served to remind me of what Melanie was throwing away. Across the room, I saw Keith whisper something in Mel's ear that made her laugh. My glass nearly shattered. Dr. Harrison followed my gaze. "Ah, I see your wife met our new administrator. Ambitious fellow, that one. Between us, a bit too slick for my taste." "Mine too," I managed. Later, as dinner was announced, Melanie returned to my side, her perfume mingled with Keith's cologne. "Having fun?" I asked quietly. "It's work, Wesley," she replied curtly. "I'm networking." "Is that what they call it now?" Her eyes flashed with anger and something else. Fear, perhaps. "Not here," she hissed. "Where then, Mel?" I countered. "The Riverton Hotel? Or has he upgraded you to the Marriott?" The color drained from her face. "You don't understand." "I understand perfectly," I said, keeping my voice low. "I just never thought you'd throw away 16 years for a corner office and a sleazy administrator." The drive home was excruciating. Melanie stared silently out the window, her jaw set in fury. When we arrived, she stormed upstairs. I checked on Emma, still awake, reading with headphones on, her escape mechanism. "Everything okay, Dad?" she asked, pulling them off.
Just the usual fundraiser politics, I lied. Get some sleep, kiddo. In our bedroom, Melanie was furiously packing an overnight bag. "Where are you going?" I asked. "To a hotel," she snapped. "I can't be here right now. Not with you watching my every move, checking my accounts, following me, running to Keith." The words came out harsher than I intended. She whirled on me. "Yes, to Keith, who makes me feel valued and seen. Not like some afterthought to your precious career." "That's rich coming from you," I said, keeping my voice low for Emma. "I've supported every ambition you've ever had, while you're throwing our family away for some guy who's probably manipulating you for hospital politics." Melanie laughed bitterly. "You really don't get it, do you? Keith sees my potential. He's helping me advance my career. Is that what he calls it? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like he's using you to undermine the current administration, including me. Something flickered in her eyes, doubt, perhaps, but it vanished quickly. I want a divorce, Wesley. Though I'd been expecting it, the words still hit like a physical blow. And Emma? Have you thought about what this will do to her? She'll adjust, Melanie said dismissively. Teenagers are resilient. She knows, Mel, about the affair, the phone calls. She's been covering for you. She can't possibly. Kids see more than we think, I said wearily. She's been protecting me while you've been off playing office politics with Keith. Melanie zipped her bag closed. I'm staying at the Riverton tonight. I'll call a lawyer in the morning. Already filing for divorce? That's convenient timing. Right after Dr. Harrison mentioned I'm in line for the new CISO position. She paused, hand on the doorknob. What position? The one that comes with a significant salary bump and equity options. The one Keith has been angling for since he arrived. Uncertainty crossed her face before her expression hardened. Not everything is conspiracy, Wesley. No, but this timing is suspicious. Did you know the last 2 hospitals Keith worked for had major data breaches shortly after he joined their administration? You're being paranoid, she said, with less conviction. Am I? Your boyfriend has been trying to access secure systems above his clearance level for weeks. I've been tracking his attempts. She stared at me, momentarily speechless. I don't believe you. Check my laptop, I offered. The logs are all there. Instead, she yanked open the door. I don't have time for your security paranoia. I'll send for my things later. After she left, I sat on her bed, head in my hands. The question that had been nagging me for weeks finally crystallized. Was Keith using Melanie to get hospital data, or was it simply a convenient affair? Either way, I needed to protect both the hospital and my daughter. I opened my laptop and began drafting 2 emails, one to my lawyer and one to the hospital board. The morning after Melanie walked out, I took Emma to school and headed straight to the hospital board meeting. I'd spent half the night compiling a security dossier on Keith Lawson's suspicious system access attempts. Mr. Frell, this is quite an accusation, the chairman said, reviewing my findings. Do you have concrete proof? I have logs showing repeated attempts to enter restricted areas. The pattern suggests someone systematically testing our defenses. The boardroom door burst open. Keith strode in, Melanie right behind him. Sorry for the interruption, but I've just been informed that Mr. Frell is making baseless accusations against me. They're not baseless, I countered. The logs don't lie. Those logs show standard administrative troubleshooting, Keith scoffed. Tell them, Melanie. My wife looked profoundly uncomfortable. I authorized Keith to test our system vulnerabilities as part of the expansion project. The revelation hit me like a punch to the gut. Without consulting the head of cybersecurity, your own husband? After the meeting, I stormed my office, Melanie following. I met Tedahu. You undermine me professionally, I said through clenched teeth. Keith appeared in the doorway. Enough, Frell. Melanie made a professional judgment call. Your personal issues are clouding your perspective. My personal issues? You mean you sleeping with my wife? Melanie deserves better, Keith said, stepping into my office uninvited. She's coming home with me to pack her things. I'm the man in her life now. Get out of my office. Or what? He smirked, standing too close. Face it, you've lost her. You've lost everything. Keith, please, Melanie pleaded. Let's just go. No, Mel. Your husband needs to understand he's no longer in charge. Keith jabbed a finger into my chest. Your wife, your home, even your job, they're all slipping away. Without warning, he slapped me across the face, right there, in front of my wife. Time seemed to slow down. 15 years of security training took over. I caught his wrist as he pulled back for another strike, twisted it sharply behind his back, and slammed him face first into the wall.
Don't ever put your hands on me again, I said calmly, increasing the pressure until he gasped in pain. You're breaking my arm, he screamed. Melanie, call security. Instead, Melanie stood frozen, her face pale with shock. I've notified security, I said evenly. They'll escort you from the building. 5 minutes later, paramedics were treating Keith's dislocated shoulder while he babbled about pressing charges. Melanie hovered nearby, looking utterly lost between worlds. The hospital placed me on administrative leave, pending an investigation. I spent the day with Richard, who reassured me that Keith's assault gave us leverage despite the institutional politics. Since Keith had struck first, and I'd merely defended myself, Tennessee courts would likely view the situation in my favor. Richard also pointed out that while my contract had a moral conduct clause, Keith had compromised hospital security and engaged in an inappropriate relationship with a subordinate. When I got home, Emma informed me that her mother had called to say she was staying at Keith's place. I apologized for her being caught in the middle. Emma, with surprising maturity, said she'd seen how her mother had been treating me. She asked if my job was in trouble and if I had really hurt her mom's boyfriend. I explained that my job situation was temporary, we'd be financially okay, and that I had only defended myself after Keith struck me first. Emma seemed satisfied, calling Keith a jerk. That evening, Dr. Harrison invited me to his home for a private meeting. Over scotch in his study, he explained that the board was divided. Half wanted to fire me to avoid controversy, the other half recognized Keith as the instigator. More surprisingly, he revealed that Melanie had come to him with concerns about Keith's unauthorized access to patient payment data. She had discovered encrypted patient files on Keith's laptop that he had no business possessing. Dr. Harrison believed Melanie was finally realizing she'd been manipulated. The hospital had contacted the FBI's cybercrime division to investigate the potential data theft. The next morning brought more news. Richard called to tell me Keith was filing assault charges, but hospital security footage clearly showed him striking me first, making it clear self-defense. This surprised me since those cameras had supposedly been offline. I realized that Dr. Harrison, the only other person with system override access, had been watching Keith all along. That afternoon, Melanie called to tell me the FBI had raided Keith's apartment, confiscating his computers and phones. After hours of questioning, she admitted she should have listened to my warnings about Keith using her to access hospital data. When she asked what would happen now between us, I told her firmly that I was focusing on protecting Emma and rebuilding our lives. As for us, there was no us anymore. She had made sure of that. The FBI investigation moved with surprising speed. Within a week, Keith was arrested at his apartment on multiple charges: attempted data theft, wire fraud, and corporate espionage. The news spread through the hospital like wildfire. According to Dr. Harrison, they had discovered evidence that Keith had pulled similar schemes at 2 previous hospitals, selling patient financial data on the dark web. Keith had targeted me specifically because my security protocols had blocked his usual methods of extraction. The hospital board called me in for an emergency meeting, where they offered a formal apology along with my reinstatement, plus the newly created CISO position Dr. Harrison had mentioned. The salary increase was substantial, nearly double my previous compensation. I accepted, but with one condition: a flexible schedule that would allow me to be more present for Emma. Melanie had moved out of Keith's apartment and into a hotel. The FBI had questioned her extensively, but ultimately concluded she was an unwitting accomplice. Still, her reputation in the hospital was in tatters.
Most colleagues avoided her, and hospital administration had placed her on indefinite leave. She appeared at our house one rainy afternoon while Emma was at soccer practice. I found her standing on the porch, soaked and looking nothing like the confident woman I'd married. She explained that her sister Andrea had refused to take her in, saying she needed to face the consequences. Melanie had nowhere else to go. Despite my better judgment, I let her in. She stood in her kitchen, now my kitchen, looking lost. She asked if she could stay just for a few days. I refused, suggesting she could afford a longer hotel stay with the $20,000 she'd siphoned from our savings. Melanie broke down, admitting Keith had convinced her to invest that money in a business opportunity that turned out to be nothing but a shell account he controlled. I felt a complicated mix of emotions: vindication, pity, but no desire for reconciliation. I called Andrea myself and convinced her to take Melanie in temporarily. As she was leaving, Melanie asked about Emma, whether our daughter would ever forgive her. I couldn't answer that. Emma's feelings were her own, and she needed time to process this betrayal. The following day, I filed for divorce, citing adultery and financial misconduct. Richard assured me that with the evidence, including the FBI investigation, the court would likely grant me primary custody of Emma and a favorable division of assets. The $20,000 Melanie had taken would be considered in the settlement. Emma was thriving despite the upheaval. Her grades had improved and she was more engaged with friends and activities. One evening, she asked if we could move to a new house, someplace without the memories of her mother's betrayal. I was surprised, but realized it might be the fresh start we both needed. That weekend, Emma and I toured neighborhoods, looking at houses with good schools and safe communities. We found a modest craftsman with a large backyard and a bright kitchen. When Emma asked if we could afford it, I explained my new position would make it possible. We made an offer that day, ready to build something new from the ashes. 1 year after Keith's arrest, Emma and I had settled into our new craftsman house in East Nashville. Keith had pleaded guilty to reduced charges, receiving a 10-year federal prison sentence. The hospital promoted me to Chief Information Security Officer, with the flexible schedule I'd requested to prioritize Emma. One evening, walking our new golden retriever, Emma surprised me. "Dad, do you ever think about dating again?" she asked, watching my reaction carefully. I nearly stumbled. "Where's this coming from?" Emma shrugged. "Lisa's dad started seeing someone, and he seems happier. You deserve to be happy too." "I'm happy," I insisted. "We've built a good life here." "I know," Emma nodded, "but maybe there could be more." That weekend, Andrea invited me to a dinner party, mentioning a few interesting single professionals would be there. Emma practically pushed me out the door. "Go! I'll be fine with Mrs. Peterson checking in," she insisted. At the party, I met Sarah, a pediatric surgeon with quick wit and warm eyes. When she asked about my story, I kept it simple. Divorced, one amazing daughter, and a job in healthcare security. That's the resume, but not the story. For the first time in years, I found myself wanting to share more than just the surface details. When I returned home, Emma was waiting up. "Well," she demanded, "did you meet anyone?" "Maybe," I admitted. "Her name is Sarah. She's a doctor." Emma's face lit up. "Are you going to see her again?" "We're having coffee next week," I said, surprised by my own anticipation. "Good," Emma nodded decisively. "You've been alone long enough." Looking at my daughter, so wise beyond her 15 years, I realized how far we'd come. Melanie's betrayal had nearly destroyed us, but instead, it had forced us to rebuild something stronger. She still sent birthday cards to Emma from Chicago, where she found work at a small clinic. Their relationship remained distant but civil. The $20,000 Melanie had taken was now in Emma's college fund, transforming the betrayal into an investment in her future. Dr. Harrison had become both mentor and friend, often joining us for dinner to discuss everything from hospital politics to Emma's debate competitions. As I turned out the lights that night, I realized the most painful chapter of my life had finally closed. Whatever came next, whether with Sarah or someone else entirely, Emma and I would face it together, stronger for having weathered the storm.